It's Couture Week in Paris, and for the spring issue of FQ, we'll get a behind-the-scenes look at the artistry that goes into all those fabulous clothes. There are 5 shows to see in Paris, plus the story takes me to Monaco, and surprisingly, Houston. And Bob's fashion shoot in a Toronto garden doesn't quite go as planned.
Look at me. Watch me. My eyes on the runway. Watch me. Cover stories.
The theme of the spring issue of FQ was duality, juxtaposition, this whole idea of opposites attracting and really looking at both sides of a prism.
We started looking at how that translated in Victor and Rolf and black and white and hot and cold.
For this issue, the creative team decides to shoot in a garden. Bob picks a conservatory in Toronto as the location. And I decide on a new vantage point to look at Paris couture. And this time around, we thought we should do a story on the ateliers, and these are the wonderful workshops where these artisans work day and night producing the most exquisite craftsmanship that's utilized in the couture. Since it is Couture Week in Paris, I get to see some amazing creations, both in the ateliers and on the runways, in 5 different shows. But before I even get to Paris, my story on the ateliers was destined to start in a completely different city, thanks to an invitation from Karl Lagerfeld at the House of Chanel. Karl Lagerfeld for the House of Chanel does another collection that is always inspired by a city and Paris. So for example, this last collection was called Paris Monte Carlo. We will use a little bit of that along with this fantastic inside, behind the scenes of the atelier story. So we got invited to see this extraordinary collection at the Opera House in Monte Carlo, and we decided to go for it. It was just a fabulous couple of days in Monte Carlo. And of course, Princess Caroline showed up to the Paris Monte Carlo collection.
Shot these pictures.
I have never seen you look like that.
Fantastic.
You look so sophisticated. I'm a huge fan of Irina, and I've supported her since the beginning, and she knows that, and that's why she was kind enough to do our cover for the last issue, and it was such a joy to be able to show her that issue backstage.
Oh, I love it. Would you want to keep that one? FQ, yes, please.
This is a collection that he's done 5 times so far, a very special collection that showcases the incredible work of the ateliers. When you talk about these ateliers, that there's
Yes.
7 different ateliers, why is it so important for Chanel to keep that tradition alive?
Without these ateliers, first there won't be any couture anymore. If we don't keep alive those 7 ateliers, this know-how will disappear.
Monaco provided a great sampling of the wonderful work of the ateliers, but it was time to go directly to the source. Chanel has bought up 7 of the couture ateliers, and 2 of the grandest, of course, Le Marié, which is responsible for doing all the feathers, and of course Lesage, that does all the extraordinary embroidery and beadwork. You have been here probably your whole life. It's your family that started this house.
My 58 years of
being here.
Of being here.
You know, I wasn't as aware of Monsieur Lesage's extraordinary background and the fact that he worked in Hollywood in the glorious 40s, designing with some of the great costumers of the time, including Edith Head and Jean Louis. I mean, just the stuff that dreams are made of. Telling me that he used to work on the clothes for Lana Turner. I was just mesmerized by that. Touring Lesage Atelier was like a trip back in time. Room after room yielded fascinating pieces. But there was a vibrancy there too. A lot of young people really have an appreciation for the artistry of couture.
Yeah, that's the school.
Oh, the school. It's just wonderful to see that tradition being kept alive and that legacy carried on. As night fell, it was time to move from the back rooms to the front row for the first of the big Paris shows, the Valentino collection.
Listen up.
Valentino did an all-white collection, which was a tribute to his collection that he did in 1968. That was a collection that Audrey Hepburn herself was at. And these were the glory days of Valentino when he was designing for Jackie Onassis. And he seemed to want to return to those times. He's celebrating his 45th anniversary. So it was a special collection for him, a quieter kind of collection, but still filled with the incredible craftsmanship and artistry that's so intrinsic to couture. Back in Toronto, Bob's fashion shoot in the garden was off to a rocky start.
I've been here 5 times, scouted the place, and there's been just a few little construction men in the gardens. And then when I was coming to the location, Abel called me and said, there are 5 buses in front and the place is filled with people. Haley, it has been empty when I've come here.
He's been here. How many times have you been here?
Like 5 times, and there's not a soul but some old construction man. We couldn't move, so it was like hilarious on one hand, but it was like impossible for us because we couldn't set up.
The crowd is really young.
It's our FQ audience.
It's our audience.
We're right on target.
They're finally here. But we did not expect to not be able to move, but thank God we can now. It was a morning thing. Because they've all gone to see Wicked, as you told me.
We're at Le Marié, which is the incredible atelier where they do all the feather work that we see at Haute Couture. Today, the couture shows start, and actually this is a dress that's being readied for the Dior show, which takes place in just a few hours. To think that we walked in to Le Marié and they were working on this fantastic samurai cocktail dress for the impending Dior couture show, which was just hours away. Do you feel the pressure now? Is this a pressure
We do,
situation?
since yesterday.
Why are you working on it so late?
Well, it's a long process. This one is very special because it has to be all covered. Not even 1 inch of fabric has to stay originally.
Yeah. How many feathers would you say are used for something like this?
It's over 1 kilo of feathers, which is a lot.
While Eric and his team continued to work on the dress, Elodie took me on a tour of the atelier. It was an amazing behind-the-scenes look at methods that are centuries old. Plus, I was shown some truly incredible and rare treasures. So this is a bird that existed how many years ago?
100 years ago.
And that's the only one that you have left?
Yeah, and maybe the only one in France. In the 19th century, there were 300 feather makers in Paris. In 1960s, there were only 50, and now Le Marié is almost the only one. Yeah.
So anytime we see feathers on a couture runway, chances are they came from here.
So now I'm gonna fly with my
on the scooter. Okay, we're following you. Okay, good luck. The stress level in this business is beyond description. People seem to thrive on the stress, though. You know that they're all, like, in their heart of hearts freaking out, and as is, you know, the designer who's waiting at the venue for the dresses to arrive. And, you know, very often I've seen these dresses arrive when the audience has been in their seats for, you know, a good half hour or more. And it makes it, you know, even more exciting because you never quite know what's going to happen until the very last moment.
Cover stories.